This piece ended up going to auction and selling for $3,700, but I didn't even want to build it to begin with. This was a piece that I was essentially dared by a YouTube commenter to build, and in the end, I'm glad I did, but when he told me that I wasn't creative enough to use anything besides walnut, and if I actually added some color to a piece for once, it would sell for 10 times as much as a boring walnut piece, I was a bit skeptical, and so when I did the auction, I actually simultaneously built a walnut table. It sold for a little bit more, but I'm still thrilled that this one was able to raise $3,700 for Make-A-Wish. This is a method I've been using for a few years to cut circles on my router table, and I've never seen anybody else do this, but I've had a few people comment saying they've been doing this for years, but what I really want is someone to create a jig that I could just put into my outfeed table so I didn't have to drill a new hole every time I want to cut a new size circle. And it's not the quickest method though. There are a few steps to it. You can see I start at the router table, then I go to the bandsaw, and then I go back to the router table. And you might be wondering, why don't I just go all the way through on the router table to begin with? And what can happen is as that router bit comes through the top, it can actually cause a lot of blowout and kind of tear out bits of the wood grain. So that's why I use that method there. This piece is going to be a little different than most of the pieces I built in the past in that when it's finished, it's going to be one continuous piece of wood. And so to get that continuous contours and continuous flow, I'm having to do this kind of segmented wedding cake glue up here. And it's a little risky, and there's a good reason why most people don't build this way is that the top could actually flex and move and warp or twist a little bit, especially when you remove a ton of material from one side like I'm doing here. So I'm really just kind of taking my chances that this wood is stable enough for me to remove a massive amount of wood from one side and none from the other. I've been working on improving my power carving skills over the last couple of years, and my first few projects were pretty marginal to poor, and I wouldn't say that I'm an expert yet, but I am getting much more comfortable. And one of the tips I can offer you is to get yourself a good spoke shave. That's what this is here, and it does a nice job at removing those high points and just smoothing out the stem and some of those rougher spots, because I'm just not smooth enough, or I don't have a steady enough hand to do that with that power carving disc. On some of my first power carved pieces, I did a pretty poor job at managing the transition from where the table base met the floor and that kind of perimeter around the edge of it, or in this case, the top of it. So what I've done there, I used a marking gauge to mark a line all the way around the perimeter, and now I can just kind of sand and carve right up to that line, which should give me a nice consistent perimeter, consistent edge to that table. This tap water, hose water, is one of the secret ingredients to this table. The other secret ingredient is this dye. This is a blue transtant dye, and the reason why water is kind of a secret ingredient is I used to try all kinds of different solutions to mix this dye with. I've tried acetone and alcohol and different things like that.